Albert, welcome to this morning's meeting with business leaders from Worship Harvest, and they are eager to know what you do and how you do it and how prevalent the problem is. Albert Elwa Louis is a director of Focus on Recovery, Tranquil Homes. He's an addiction professional. He'll tell us what ICAP2 means. He's a recovery coach. He's a mental health advocate and a counseling psychologist. I'm sure half of us have not understood what all those mean, but me inclusive. But that doesn't really matter. The main thing is that he's going to tell us what he does and how prevalent the problem is and what the hope is for all of us. We could live in denial, but the problem is real, and it's my honor and privilege to welcome Albert to talk to us. Albert, please unmute your mic, and ladies and gentlemen, welcome with me, Albert. The floor is yours.
Yes, good morning, Grace. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me. First of all, let me go to a few details of my introduction. ICAP basically stands for International Certification of Addiction Professionals. Nowadays, we all follow an international curriculum for treatment. So in order for you to qualify for that, then you have to undergo a course that will certify you. This means you can be able to practice in any country under the Colombo Plan that was designed by the United States Psychiatry Association and the World Health Organization. And also a recovery coach. That means I have a lived experience. I have battled this problem myself. I have been sober 14 years, and I had to go back to school to be able to make myself competent to practice in this field. I don't know if that is enough introduction, Grace.
That's more than enough.
Okay,
so
thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, now the issue of substance abuse is so wide that we could probably take an entire week here. So I would just like to summarize a few things and give us a few tips that will help us at least quote unquote self-diagnose and also be able to identify this problem in our families. So what is substance abuse? Substance abuse, which is commonly known as addiction, though there is a thin line in between the two, is basically a medical term that is used to describe significant problems or that come with misuse of drugs or overuse of substances. These include alcohol, street drugs, and prescription drugs. And usually, when people abuse drugs, many a times they develop a brain disorder, especially those that abuse these. I don't even say that there is any particular type that will not lead to a brain disorder. Basically, all these drugs will use to a brain disorder or a substance use disorder. Now, the most commonly abused drug is alcohol, which is a legal drug. Continued abuse of these drugs leads to substance dependence. Now, substance dependence is when somebody continues to use these drugs despite the obvious social problems, legal and physical problems that come with the use. They develop problems at home. They develop problems at work, at school, in their entire social circles. They are falling sick, they are getting accidents. But even after that, or even during these events, somebody is still using. At this point, somebody has developed high tolerance to these substances, whereby if he used in the beginning, he used to take, let me say, one stick of weed or marijuana or a bottle of beer. Nowadays, the person has to take, let's say, 5 or more amounts, higher amounts, in order to be able to get the same effect. So you may wonder now, if, for example, some of us that are very busy and do not follow up on activities of our family members, or some of us that do not even think they have a problem, how are you able to critically look at yourself and tell, or look at a family member or a friend and tell that there is a problem? First of all, the patterns relating to tolerance that I've just spoken about, using or drinking larger amounts, especially over longer periods of time than planned, usually points to a problem. Then when you see you continually trying to cut down, or you want to cut down unsuccessfully on your use, then there is a problem. Because even your body can tell you, even you can figure out sometimes that, this is too much, I need to give up on this. But you keep trying and failing. That usually points to a problem. When you spend a lot of time using these substances or recovering from their use, that is also a pointer to a problem. Having cravings or a strong desire to use these substances is also a pointer to the presence of a problem. Also, when one continues using despite continued relationship problems, you're having issues with your parents, you're having issues with your spouse, with your siblings, but you continue to use, then that is a problem. Yeah. Then also, when you see that people have stopped doing the things that they used to do, used to go to church as a family, now this one skips. They used to all be together at dinner time. Someone now eats in the room or skips meals, taking risks, also such as sexual risks. You find yourself also driving under the influence. These are all pointers to a problem. Somebody gets sick and recovers. I see a lot of, in my practice, we see a lot of issues whereby somebody comes, they have let's say a liver problem, and you treat this person. As soon as the liver is okay, they say, I'm fine. And many of them usually think this is a new lease of drinking life. But as long as the liver is fine, they can drink. And yet, the battlefield of addiction is the mind. If you don't treat the mind, then you've hardly done anything. So, also when you see people having withdrawal symptoms, when somebody hasn't taken, they have the shakes, they're irritable, others develop running stomachs. Different drugs have different withdrawal symptoms. All these are usually signs that there is a problem. So we may be wondering, what causes this? Because I can tell you, almost 1 in 4 families nowadays is battling a problem of substance abuse or addiction. It's a terrible thing. And the unfortunate thing is that the treatment options in this country are not enough. So basically, let's go back to the causes. One of them that is very common nowadays is self-medication. because there's an increasing dependency on prescription medication, especially painkillers, cough syrups that have a chemical called codeine. Now these are over-the-counter drugs, and our control measures for purchase of medications in this country is very weak. Anyone can go into a pharmacy and purchase medication, even without a prescription. We have heard of black markets in schools where kids are now trading in these prescription drugs. And many parents do not know how to tell. The child seems drowsy and the eyes are white, he's not steaming anything. And you think your child doesn't have a problem, but he has swallowed something. So self-medication has become a problem, or abuse of prescription drugs. Then another problem is also pressure relating to life circumstances. Some people may start using drugs to deal with difficulties in their personal lives, loss of job, et al. Peer pressure can also fall under this. Then we also have genetic predisposition to substance use. Some people are born with these genes. Basically, there are three factors that conspire to cause addiction. That is genetics, availability, and environment. For addiction to take place, any two of these have to be active. It could be genetics and availability, the substances within, or even genetics and environment, the environment is conducive, or even availability and environment. The kids are locked in the house, the substances are, the alcohol is in the fridge, they get bored at a certain point and they start experimenting. They like the feeling, and then before you know, there is a problem developing. Under your nose. So there are several other causes, but let me just wind this part up with a few. Grief is also a cause. We've noticed that there is very little grief counseling in this country. People are expected to man up, apart from the normal consolation that happens when friends come, family members come. Within the 1 week when the loss has occurred, nothing continues afterwards. Some people are deeply impacted by grief, and more often they'll fall into depression and will look for their own means of coping. And substances always come in as a solution, Then trauma and adverse childhood effects are also a leading cause of substance abuse or addiction. Research shows that so many people that end up suffering from addiction have problems rooted in their childhood experience. I must say that addiction is a disease that has been proven by science. It's a disease of the brain that is relapsing in nature. It is progressive, and it's also chronic in nature. This has been proven by science. So a lot of the experiences that we go through as young people end up impacting our brains. They are buried in the subconscious, and before we know it, later in our teenage or a later period in life, these things resurface and we do not know how to cope with them. And in most cases, you find somebody going to use substances, but they don't even know what is driving them. Then as a family, we start saying that, this one was bewitched. This is the problem. These are also, most of us keep saying that spiritual issues, and others will say, this man, these are just character defects. The man is stubborn, he doesn't listen, he's just in bad groups. But in many cases, the person doesn't actually understand what is happening to them. Because on the surface, they are manifesting behaviorally by what we are seeing. But the cause is underlying in the subconscious. And that is why treatment is very important. So we may ask, so how does treatment work? Many people say that we've heard about this problem, and we've also been told that when somebody goes for this kind of treatment, let's say rehab, they end up coming up worse. A little earlier, I talked about addiction being a disease of the brain that is relapsing in nature. Number one, there is no guarantee to any treatment, even if it comes to malaria. The doctor will tell you, try this, it should work, but he will never 100% guarantee you that it will work. He will tell you that it has sometimes worked. So there is no one size fits all. But psychotherapy, which is practiced in rehabilitation centers, has been the most successful treatment approach. Usually, psychotherapy is combined with is also combined with detoxification, which is a medical assisted approach in cleansing the body by also using medication. This is to help the body restore some of its functions like normal sleep patterns, appetite, and also help the person, most especially, deal with the withdrawals that come with the lack of use. Because in most cases, the person goes back to this pattern of use due to the withdrawal symptoms. It's a very uncomfortable physical and psychological state, whereby irrespective of who you are or where somebody is going to do whatever it takes to access these substances. So this is a disease that is relapsing in nature, which means if somebody does not stick to their coping mechanisms that have been taught to them in the rehab, if they do not properly concentrate on the program and identify their triggers, when they get out, sooner or later, they are going to be overwhelmed by these triggers. Triggers can be in the family. Triggers can be in any other part of society. Triggers can even be in the things that we keep in our rooms. Just looking at a cigarette lighter reminds you of use, and you know, somebody will end up using again. So if somebody does not properly internalize their coping methods, then there are high risks of relapse, because it's a relapsing disease. Even if somebody stops drinking on their own, and they are not self-conscious, they do not build enough insight, they are going to relapse. And when they relapse, relapsing means going back to that state. And in most cases, it's worse, because the brain demands, the brain goes into compensation mode and demands for all for the alcohol or drug you've missed all this time you are abstinent. So whichever way, whether someone is in rehab or outside, when they go back, it's always worse. But then I said earlier that it is not one size fits all. Some people even take 10 rounds of rehabilitation to get better. Others just do it once and they are better. You know? And also treatment depends on many things. Age is a factor. One's overall health or health history also is a factor in treatment. The extent of the symptoms, the extent of the dependency, this type of abuse. Most families will tell you, no, we can only do 3 months, but you really see this person needs a minimum of 6 months or even more. You know, you cannot treat an opioid problem like heroin in 3-4 months. Sometimes even the 6 months are not enough. Marijuana, the least you can do is 6 months. Increasingly, research is showing even these short periods of treatment are not working. But there's one thing that has been proven, that time is a very important factor in treatment. For as long as somebody stays abstinent in a situation where they are getting help for a long period of time, chances of success are high. So what are the what solutions do we have when it comes to this problem? Number one is seek help for mental illness, because mental illness is also a leading cause of substance abuse. Usually they go hand in hand. There are professional therapists, we have rehabilitation centers that now help. For example, us at Focus on Recovery Uganda or Tranquil Homes. Then also we should educate ourselves about this problem. We examine the risk factors. You look at your family history. If you have a family history of mental illness or addiction, that means that your chances of developing a substance use disorder or an addiction or substance abuse problem are much high. Yeah? Because the more you're aware of your biological, environmental, and risk factors, the more likely you're able to overcome them. Then we should also keep a balanced life, you know, to avoid us turning to these substances, practice stress management skills, you know. And as a country, we should dedicate more resources into the treatment of substance use disorders or addiction. If you go to Butabikato any one time, there's usually no space, especially at the alcohol drug unit that is free. Then there are simple practices like you just avoid the temptation and areas where you experience peer pressure. This is usually very helpful. We can do this also by building healthy friendships, you know, and avoiding friends or family members who pressure us to use. So, like I said earlier, this is a very big problem. And I can tell you it is arguably the biggest cancer of this century. Everyone is suffering silently. Stigma is a very big problem in this country, not only in this country, almost the world over. We had an experience where we were treating two best friends, both of them doctors, both of them with sons that had this problem. And no one told the friend. They all met during one of the meetings at the rehab center, you know, and that is how bad it is. Even the people closest to us do not know what is happening. And yet, if we share more about this problem, then we are more aware, and we are able to help our family members. So let me leave it here for one or two questions, but I'll be very willing to join you again next time so that we can talk about this problem in more detail. Thank you. And I'm also the director of Focus on Recovery Uganda, like you talked about. We are an organization that is into mental health with special focus on addiction treatment. Thank you.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, please unmute and let's clap for Albert for sharing his knowledge with us and his experience.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Albert, thank you so much for sharing. I see Mona, your hand is up. Please shoot.
Thank you, Director. Albert, thank you very much for a very informative session. Starting with exactly where you left off, and this is a request perhaps to you, Director, that Albert seems to have quite a bit of information for us. And there are a number of questions in the chat with 4 minutes to go. I was wondering if that next time he's proposing cannot be tomorrow, so that we do this topic justice. Quite relevant. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Albert, I'll leave that to you because I cannot answer it on your behalf.
Thank you. We could do Wednesday. Tomorrow I'm traveling.
Okay, Wednesday, there's a different program we have. Albert, could we do next Monday?
Yeah, that is okay. That is
Okay.
perfect.
Let's do it next Monday. There's a question on the chat. Someone asks, where do you categorize issues like pornography?
Yeah, pornography is also an addiction. And it is one of those very difficult addictions to deal with because people do it in private. It is not something that is obvious. You don't look at somebody and just tell that there is addiction, but it's a very bad behavioral addiction, and usually somebody needs also intense therapy. Now with pornography, someone might not exactly need inpatient. Somebody can go through, just approach a therapist and they start an outpatient program, intense. But pornography usually also comes with other behavioral problems like masturbation. And usually when because all these problems affect the same part of the brain, whether it's a chemical problem or a behavioral problem. And so there becomes a thin line between the behavioral problem and the chemical problem. A good percentage of people who develop problems with masturbation and pornography also have a substance use disorder. But once you realize there's a problem or you have a problem with pornography or masturbation, please seek help. Nowadays, we get issues, we get situations where we are treating even people as young as 12, 13, 14 for problems of masturbation and pornography. Thank you. I don't know if that helps, as brief as it is.
That really helps. I'm just wondering what would lead to a 12-year-old to masturbate. I mean, this world has a problem. There was someone who asked, is functional alcoholism an addiction or what? First of all,
Yes.
what is functional alcoholism?
Yes, functional alcoholism is a situation where somebody has an addiction or somebody is an alcoholic, but then can still do their work properly. They go to work, they are responsible family people, they are respected in society, they are productive. And usually this is what masks them from reality. You tell the person there's a problem, but don't I provide? And the children going to school, do you lack anything? And the people outside, in most cases, don't know. The problem is usually known by the inner circle and the very close friends. And now functional alcoholics or high-performing alcoholics, usually the center gives in, usually starts giving in around the age of 40. This is when you start seeing the cracks. This is when you start seeing the relationship problems are more pronounced. The work problems are more pronounced. In most cases, the job goes first, then the relationship gives way, then depression comes in, and before you know it, you can't recognize the person. Because when the depression sets in and all these things are gone, then their problem is quite obvious to the entire world. But it usually begins around 40 upwards. That's when you begin to notice cracks in people with high-performing, who are high-performing alcoholics.
Wow. Thank you so much, Albert. Albert, I can't thank you enough. And ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who have tuned in, we are 40 on the call. Albert will be back next Monday. Come in with your questions, then we'll be able to learn more. If there are anything that you really want to know next Monday, then you can inbox me, and then I can get in touch with Albert. Then there'll be specific answers to certain questions. My appeal to all of us, first of all, there are two. Number one, really thank you so much, Albert. And I'll ask Mona to pass a vote of thanks to Albert. But also for me, it would be this. Let us be open about this problem, and let us really face it than deny it or hide it under the carpet. It's a real malaise that is eating our society, and unless we come out of the hiding and confront this head on. Mona, please, back to you.
Thank you very much, Director. Albert, we can't thank you enough for delving into a topic, as you rightly said, many people are battling with quite painfully and most times silently. Thank you for giving of your time, and you've given to us generously quite early in the morning, and I dare say free of charge. So, your willingness to come back and speak to us is very much appreciated. And we look forward to further engagement Monday and probably possibly beyond, because the questions that many people have are quite a number. So would like to thank you very, very much for your time and wish you a very good week ahead, especially as you travel tomorrow, and we can't wait to have you again. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome. Thank you for having me. I look forward to being back here. Have a good week ahead too.
All right, God bless you. Guys, have fun. God bless you. Don't be a martyr. Catch you tomorrow, same time. Back here, we'll talk about debt. Debt is also a problem, but it won't be Albert telling us about debt. We'll talk about debt differently. Otherwise, go make money. May God bless you. May you prosper in all your ways. Have fun while you make profit. Bye-bye.